Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Hopeless Stream. This time we will be flowing into the farthest reaches of space in search of a species more deserving than our own. Yes, you heard that right. A species more deserving than our own. Whether we'll find it, I don't know. But the game that we're going to be playing tonight is a game which will certainly allow us to find various different life forms. And who knows, perhaps one of them will be that life form that might be a better match for this universe than our own. So today is the last day of a 2-week holiday for me. So I was thinking, what better way to spend the final day of your holidays than hanging out on stream and playing one of those old gems from the early 1980s with you all, and just forgetting for these last few hours that work and every day exists, because it'll only begin come Monday morning and it's still far, far away, especially when we are floating through space searching for alien life forms. So the game that we will be playing tonight is another Ares Magazine games. And this time it is the Voyage of the BSM Pandora. If you have been following this stream at all, you will know that I have already streamed several other Ares Magazine games. I've streamed Citadel of Blood, Nightmare House, and The Return of the Stainless Steel Rat. So these are all games that were published in the Ares magazines in the early 80s. And as I've said many times before, they are unique games in that the designs are often radically unhinged. They are trying out new ideas. They are completely breaking with whatever conventions there might exist, and they're establishing new conventions in these games. So looking at these games from the early 80s, you can see the beginnings of so many other games that would follow them later. And one of the things that the game you see before you here, The Voyage of the BSM Pandora, is especially well known for is that it is known to be the so-called granddaddy of paragraph-based board games. And what that exactly means, I'll be going into a lot more detail about that a little later. But I just want to preface it again by saying this is a game which basically, it stands on the shoulders of other ideas about how to use paragraphs in literature and games, which I'll talk about in a minute. But it is a game that very much launches the whole genre of paragraph-based board games. And there are many examples. We just recently, about a month ago or 2 months ago maybe, here on the Hopeless Stream, we streamed War Story Occupied France, which is it came out last year, and it's a World War II paragraph-based board game. And in some weird way, you can say that a game like War Story actually owes its existence to the Voyage of the BSM Pandora that we'll be streaming here tonight. And now what I'm going to do is that I am going to light the candle. And I hope that everyone at home is ready to play the Voyage of the BSM Pandora. Tonight, we'll be streaming the Voyage of the BSM Pandora, designed by John Butterfield and published in Ares Magazine in 1981. This is the granddaddy of paragraph-based board games. And the game derives its subject matter from a novel by a Canadian author called A. Van Vogt called The Voyage of the Space Beagle. And I have it here for some inexplicable reason in German. Die Expedition der Space Beagle. This is a sci-fi novel that came out in 1950, and it tells the story of a ship called the Space Beagle, which very much like Charles Darwin's ship, the HMS Beagle, travels around not the terrestrial globe looking for animal species, but travels around different planets in space looking for alien life forms. So in this game, we will be aboard the BSM Pandora, which is abbreviation for the Biological Survey Mission Pandora. And we will be traveling to these different planets, trying to see if we can find alien life forms and document them and perhaps even capture them and bring them back home to study them. Now, the conceit in this book is that everyone aboard the ship are male and they are all chemically castrated. The idea apparently is that by chemically castrating all these males, then you lower the chances of conflicts, interpersonal conflicts aboard the ship, because you remove the sexual drive and you remove sort of the overly emotional reactions through this chemical castration is the idea, which seems to me, if I was a sci-fi author and I wanted to have a ship with a lot of interpersonal drama aboard the ship, kind of just taking sex and emotions out of the equation seems like a really tough start if you want to write good drama. So the drama in this book is also more on the level of which methodology to use when we survey these planets and how to understand these creatures that we find. So in a sense, is this sort of very neutered human population aboard the ship, and then all the color comes from the various alien life forms that are encountered, and some of them are described from the point of view of the alien life forms, and that's really one of the very interesting tricks in the book, I think. And if you don't know this book, you might want to pick it up and give it a read. It's an interesting book in its own right, but it's also a very foundational book because it's, I don't know, I don't want to say anything with certitude when it comes to Star Trek, because I'm not a Trekkie. But this book was a major inspiration for the Star Trek universe. The Star Trek universe is basically called over this book. So the USS Enterprise in Star Trek is kind of the Space Beagle in the Voyage of the Space Beagle. And the Star Trek universe was created in the 1960s, so about like 15 years after the Voyage of the Space Beagle came out. So you can really, really see a strong influence in the series. And also, Alien, the whole Alien franchise is also very reminiscent of reading the Voyage of the Space Beagle. So if you kind of want to know a little bit of the origin stories of these sort of major franchises in the world of modern sci-fi, you might want to check out this book. It's an interesting read and a very important book for the formation of modern sci-fi genre franchises. Now, what you're looking at here before you is the map. And as you can see, the map is divided into kind of 9 different squares. So they are kind of separate. The one down here is the interstellar display. So that has all the different planets that we're going to be traveling to. And then each time we touch down on a planet, we can go to one of these more sort of, one of these planet surfaces that you see here with different terrains. So each planet is not necessarily mapped to a specific terrain map. All terrain maps can, I guess, at least theoretically, apply to all the different planets. It's a question of dice rolling, basically, how you end up. So we are going to travel between planets, and then we're going to touch down on planets, and we're going to send shuttles down with expedition members trying to find alien life form and bring it back aboard the ship. And there is a whole, of course, sort of victory point construction around the game that we're not going to bother with because we don't bother with these things on the Hopeless stream. But the idea basically is that By collecting more information about more alien life forms, you get more points, and also by doing it in with a certain allotment of time. You can take a tour, which is a 10-month tour, a 20-month tour, or a 30-month tour. Now, I'm not have any plans of trying to complete any specific set number of months in the game, so I'm just gonna play. As long as it's fun and enriching to play, and then at one point I'm gonna return to base, or who knows, I might blow up in space or be sucked into a black hole. A lot of weird stuff can happen in this game. But also, and please keep that in mind at home, also very little can happen in this game. And again, I want to quote, we've done this many times before on stream, Michel Houellebecq for saying anything can happen in life, especially nothing. And this is also very true in the Voyage of the BSM Pandora. So don't grow frustrated if nothing too much happens, because it builds tension so that when something happens, it gets really exciting. That at least is the idea, or that's how I play it. What you see out here on our right, that's our crew. We have Captain Hargrove, the commander, the dedicated, steadfast commander who's going to make sure that this mission is a success. We have Nikolai, the navigator, who's going to take us safely through meteor storms and around black holes. We have Dr. Grosvenor, the science officer, who's going to survey these life forms that we hopefully will discover and tell us everything about how they function and how we can use that to better ourselves, or as I like to put it, to maybe just replace ourselves if we find someone who's a little less destructive towards their environment and who don't have to be chemically castrated in order to function. I mean, isn't this the whole premise of the book right there? It's kind of, Jesus, what are we? We're traveling out to survey all these other life forms as if we are the life forms to end them all, and we want to take our little butterfly pins and we want to put all these life forms on a wall. But we are so compromised that we have to chemically castrate ourselves in order to complete this mission. I mean, it seems like we've already lost and that maybe somebody else should be studying us. But then again, it's a big universe, and who knows, maybe someone else are actually studying us. And perhaps that is how the story is gonna unfold. Now, after the science officer, we have Dr. Lanning, the ground survey officer, the brightest among the bunch. I don't know if you can see here, but they all have an endurance of 5, which is kind of the hit points, and they have an intelligence rating between 6 and 9, and Dr. Lanning is the brightest of them all, maxed out in intelligence 9. So when we sent Dr. Lanning down on planet's surface, we know that we're going to have good guidance. Then we have Dr. Matheson, the medical officer, who is... We can either take him with us on the expedition to sort of patch anyone up who get hurt if something untoward should happen when we're down on the planet. But he's actually much more effective if he's on the main ship. As long as people make it back alive to the ship, Dr. Matheson can pretty much patch up anything that comes back. You can be missing arms and legs and have holes through your body. Dr. Matheson has the equipment, he can patch you up. And I mean, I guess he's already chemically castrated all of us, including himself. So he knows what he's doing and he can carry it out perfectly. Then we have Sarge Niven, our weapons officer. He is not the brightest in the bunch. He's got an intelligence of 7. But, he's a weapons guy, so it's okay that, you don't actually want a weapons officer who gets too philosophical about things. You just want someone that you can tell, like, push that button, and then he pushes the button and he blows up whatever he's supposed to blow up. So Sarge Niven, he's very loyal, he parries orders, and he's not really bright enough to gainsay anything you say to him. So that's all cool with me. And then finally, at the bottom of the ladder, Calvin, a maintenance officer. I don't know who brought him aboard here. He's got an intelligence of 6. I mean, it must be someone's nephew. I think it's probably Captain Hargrove's nephew, Calvin, who's a bit of a fuck up, a bit of a drunk, and his life was not going anywhere. So Dr. Hargrave sort of picked him up and put him in the lowest ranking officer position on the ship, which is a maintenance officer. And hopefully he can just make sure that our equipment is being fixed. It's something with nuts and bolts and oil. And as long as he know whether to screw clockwise or counterclockwise, he should be able to fix stuff aboard the ship. So that's Calvin. And maybe also, put him in a shuttle, get him down Planetside, let him experience something, and maybe get interested in things other than himself and the immediate pleasures that surround him. But that's maybe I think that's a subplot here, and maybe even more difficult to achieve than actually discovering alien life form. So we are now going to start the game by placing our ship on the board, and down here at the bottom we're placing our shuttle, which we're going to use when we touch down on a planet. We're going to place our rover, which we can take to the planet if we want, but as you will soon find out, this is very much a logistics game, so it's very much about what things weigh and how much people can carry and shuttles can carry depending on atmosphere and things. This game is very much, I think, in the spirit of chemically castrated white males. It's very much that kind of game. It's very cerebral, it's very logistics oriented, but there are these pockets of imagination, and I would even say sort of psychedelic explosions, and that's what we are hoping that we'll be able to achieve. I'm also going to put down the on foot marker in case we don't need a rover to move around a planet, but just want to do it on foot. And then I'm going to take the Pandora, which looks like this. There you have it. And we are going to place it right down here at the bottom of the interstellar map. It's probably a little bit difficult for you to see at home, but I'll try to be good at pointing out where stuff is as I move around. And then we turn to the first paragraph in the game, and that is how it starts. So, first question, what is the first paragraph? Oh yeah, here it is. Outfitted, checked, and rechecked, the Pandora departs from the Watkins Memorial Exploration Depot in the Creighton system. The faster-than-light drive is activated, and the mission heads for the first planet in its assigned exploration sector. Now, we must choose a planet on the display and conduct interstellar movement to check and see if there is an interstellar event that occurs on our way to the planet. So we can basically choose any of these planets down here, and you can see they have different sizes and different colors. The sizes, of course, means how big or small the planet is, but the colors also indicate how close they are to the sun in the system where they're at. So if they are red, they're very close to the sun, so these are generally really hot planets. If they are yellow, they are sort of in the Goldilocks zone, which is kind of where Earth is in our solar system. So probably there should be a larger chance of finding life on those planets. And if they are blue, they're kind of far away, so probably a little colder, a little more arid. And if they are green, and we only have one green planet, which is Beard, it's remote. It's like a rock somewhere on the outskirts of a solar system. I don't know what could possibly live out there. But then again, alien life forms, who knows? So let's pick a planet. I mean, we are on tour here, so we need to put the tour time marker up here. So every space we move here will take a month. And if we're trying to aim for something within the realistic frame of the game, we would do like a 10-month tour. That's the shortest period you can play the game if you're following those rules. And then let me just see if we need to put anything more out at this point. I don't think so. No, we can wait with these. I'm going to put it down here. Okay. And this here we can also wait with. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So there is a Mephisto right there, which is it's a hot planet. It's a small hot planet. I don't know. I kind of want to go somewhere where there is a promise of life. So, and very hot doesn't sound very, very comfortable. There's a planet there, a small planet in the Goldilocks zone, but it's not very big. So, I don't know. But then again, perhaps it's a good start, perhaps to go to a Goldilocks planet that isn't too vast and hope that maybe some peaceful, quiet life form has arisen there and that we can discover and visit them. So to go there, we take our ship, and what you see out here on the left, that's all the stuff that's on the ship, apart from, of course, all our crew members here. And those are sort of various tools and items. The greens are tools and items, and the blue ones are various bots that we can also carry with us when we go on expedition. But all this is in the Pandora right now. And Nikolai, our navigator, is now safely, gonna move us across interstellar space to Picole, this small Goldilocks planet, just 3 months sailing away. So 1, 2, 3. Swordman says, it all sounds very wholesome. I'm sure it is. So now we're gonna throw to see if we have any interstellar events. I'm rolling 2 dice. It's only on a 2 or 3 that we'll have them. So no interstellar events, which is probably a good thing. So Nikolai managed to get us there safely and securely, a very uneventful journey, and we're now ready to go planetside on Picole. So the first thing we do is that we need to establish some facts about the planet. And in order to do that, we need to roll on the planet table. So I'm just going to do that. Oops, I need just 1 die. And that means that I have to go to paragraph 105. Here it says, yes, this is clearly a very scientific game. We are now orbiting Picole, and we are learning that the gravity is light. I'm gonna note these things down on a sheet of paper outside the screen because it might be important later. Gravity light. Okay. That means that it'll be easy for us to carry stuff down there. Things are not going to weigh too much. It's going to be easy. And the atmosphere is thin. Okay. So breathing might be a little complicated, but we'll be all right. It's just like being high in the mountains, I guess. The hydrograph is 50%. And I'm not 100% sure what the hydrograph is, but I guess it's something that measures humidity. So how wet is this planet? And 50% is kind of even. Is that what Earth is? I don't know. It's at 50% anyway. And the geology is quiet, which means that the planet is probably sort of settled into the formations it has, so no volcanoes or anything, which is nice, I guess. And it has a life support value of 1. And if I understand it correctly, a lower life support value means that there are greater chances of life. So I think 1 is an indication that there should probably be some life here. And I guess also with all that water and that, light gravity, thin atmosphere, 50% hydrograph, quiet geology, we should be able to meet something down here. Let's hope at least. But again, no promises. And then I'm gonna roll a die to see how this exploration is going to unfold. Oh, before I do that, because before I decide the planet's surface and our touchdown, we actually need to decide who is going to go in the shuttle down to the planet and who's going to stay back up at the Pandora. And this is where the logistics part of the game comes in. Swordbender says Earth is approximately 70% water. Okay, that's nice to know. That's something to use as a kind of marker to get an idea of what 50% water is. So it's somewhat drier than Earth. And now we have to choose. And as you can see, these characters, they have a lot of numbers. So here's our Commander-in-Chief, Captain Hargrove, for example. And Hargrove has 5 numbers. And those numbers relate to battle, whether you're trying to kill an alien life form or capture it. It's the weight of the character or the item, how much it can carry, and how fast he or she or it is. So on a planet with a thin atmosphere, I now have to check how much stuff can we actually bring. But this is very much a game about planning the expedition, setting it up, getting it just right, and then executing the expedition down on the map. So I'm not a very good expedition outfitter, so I'm not going to overthink this at all, but I just want to make sure that I am following the instructions as intended here, so we can get a real sense of how to play this game. So in a light atmosphere, we can bring 100 in weight down to the planet, and each character can carry what they normally can carry plus 2. So that's good to know. So let's see. This is our first planet. We're touchdown, and I kind of feel that Captain Hargrove has to show some leadership by saying, I'll be in that shuttle. And he tells Nikolai before he enters the shuttle, if anything goes wrong down there, you take charge and you make sure that you get the rest of the crew safely back to the memorial station where we started out. So I'm going to bring Captain Hargrove. I'm going to put him over here, the stuff I bring. So, and Captain Hargrove weighs 5. So I have 95 more that I can bring. So that sounds like a lot, but there are other things we need to consider here. So, for example, since the gravity is light, we will put this marker here, which indicates how often we need to have new supplies, or how many supplies we need in order to survive on this planet. And we're also going to carry the supplies. So we can carry up to 30 supply. I guess we might as well, since it's so we don't run into supply problems, because that is 30 in weight, plus Captain Hargrave, that is 5, that's 35. I also think we should bring the rover, because this sounds like a planet it's not too big. It may be possible to move around on foot, but still with this thin atmosphere, it might be nice to have the rover. And again, because the gravity is light, it's so easy to carry stuff. So by taking the rover, we now have 55 stuff, so we have 45 more we can bring. I actually think that already now in the first expedition that Captain Hargrove is going to bring his nephew. Calvin, come on. Now, let's show you something new, let's get you some new interest here. Let's get aboard this shuttle and touch down on this planet and learn to appreciate other things than the video games or whatever it is that you spent your time with back on planet Earth. You need to go out and experience nature and the beauty and diversity of our universe. So that was another 6 points. Then I don't think the weapons officer, we need him. I mean, that would be a little bit too aggressive, and I don't want to be naive, but still, we don't want to carry someone. But I do think that I want to take the smartest guy of the bunch, Dr. Lanning, our ground survey officer, as well. So with these 3 guys is probably going to be enough for this expedition. Then we probably also need some tools. Now, we're going to bring some E-cages, because those are the ones that we will use in case we encounter alien life forms. We can put them in E-cages and transport them back to our shuttle and back to our mothership. So a couple of E-cages is nice. Then what more do we need? Scanner sounds like a good thing, right? I'm gonna bring a scanner. We also have various bots. Let me just see which kind of bots I can bring. So we have a recon bot, we have a spec bot, we have an AM bot, and we have an INR bot. Not quite sure what all these bots do. An INRA bot? I'm not sure. But I do understand a recon bot, and I think that sounds great. Let's have a recon bot on board. And do we want to... No, I don't want to take the AM bot. I don't want to take anything aggressive down there. And this spec bot, I think that's also kind of a scanner bot. So we could take that instead of the scanner, actually, because I think we can carry it. Let's just see if we remove the scanner. It's a huge crew we're taking down here, but you know, this is the first planet, and we want to make it right. So right now we're carrying 30 supply, 20 for the rover, that's 50. The 2 bots is 18, that's 68. That's 70 with the E-cages, and then it's 18. That's with the crew, so that's 88. So we have 12 points left we can carry. I'm going to take a bot kit in case something happens with the bot, and then we also have Calvin there, our maintenance officer, who can fix it. So our nephew can also feel that he's really that he's really contributing. Swordvender says kidnapping animals is not aggressive. Well, you know, it's our obligation as a superior species here in the universe to survey the biological diversity, and that is best done by taking specimens and bringing them back home and surveying them, in the controlled environment of our laboratories. So rest assured, we're not here to exterminate any populations. And of course, when we have done with the survey, should we happen to return to the same planet later, we will, of course, release that life form into the wild. Unless, of course, we have found other purposes for the specific life form. So don't worry, it's not aggressive at all. It's very humane. We brought a bot kit, a climb kit. No, we don't need to climb. We're in the rover. A med kit. Yeah, let's bring a med kit. Why not? And I also want to bring a holographer, because that is something that can actually, I think, make images of animals. If that's actually a way to be less aggressive, I think. Then we just create a holographic image of a life form and we bring that back. And that's almost as good as the real thing. And the final thing I want to bring, again, I know I don't want to be aggressive, but I think I do want to bring a net gun, just in case, sometimes it's just easier to catch animals with nets, I guess, even in the future. So this is going to be our expedition headed by Captain Hargrove with Dr. Lanning close by his side and his nephew Calvin as well. And they're going to go there with the recon bot and also the spec bot to scan. And they have their holographer, they have their net gun, they have their E-cages. And then they also have the kits for repairing the bot and themselves in case something happens. And then, of course, the rover. So now we're going to make touchdown. And the process that I've just gone through is basically the process you go through every time you're descending on a planet. So this is the setup. So if it turns out that I desperately need the weapons officer down on the planet, tough luck, I didn't bring him. But we are now carrying, I think, almost everything we can carry on this mission. So we're just stock full. There's no room left in the shuttle, and it can barely, get off the ground or however it is when it falls out of the mothership and detaches and go down through the atmosphere. It comes down very fast, and it's going to be a little bit hard for it to take off. I'm not sure what happens if we actually find a creature. We're going to leave something behind, or there is something about these E-cages somehow, I think, annulling the gravity of the creatures. We'll find out if that happens. So right now, I think we have everything we need, and I just need to check where it is that we touch down. So if you are ready, we're gonna make our first descent onto the planet of Picole. It's a 4. We're descending into Hex 1404. So this will now be the shuttle of the BSM Pandora. So our expedition is going to be the same, but in silver. And right now, the expedition is on the same space as the shuttle, because not only are we detaching from the mothership into the shuttle, but we're also going to send the expedition out from the shuttle. So there's like another part to this whole mini puzzle that we are creating. But right now, as you can see, we're in a sort of very fertile area. This segment here is where we're going to be moving around. There's a river running through it, and we are in a hilly terrain. No, we're not. We are in light vegetation, and then there's more heavy vegetation with the darker green. These sort of purplish, pinkish places, those are mountainous areas, but there are no structures. There are no signs of any kind of alien structures on the surface. It's just pure nature. So whatever lives here either does not build structures or only have structures underground. But then again, we don't see any caves. We don't see any big watery areas where there might be underwater cities or something like that. It's just a nice wooded area. So now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to decide who is actually going to go out on the expedition and who's going to stay back in the shuttle. So we're going to take the rover, and then I think the captain is... No, I think the captain is going to stay back, and then Dr. Lanning, the ground survey officer, will be charged with keeping an eye on Calvin, Dr. Hargrove's nephew, as they enter into the as they explore the planet. And then with them, they will also take should they take the recon? And now I should have brought the scanner, I think, because I'm not sure I want to take both the bots. But let's take both the bots. The recon and the spec bot. And then I think we can, and then they, of course, they also have to carry supplies, which is good, because we can use the bots for that. They don't carry that much. But let's just take, we have 30 supply in the shuttle. So if we take maybe 15, we can carry that. So we take 15 supply with us on the expedition. And then how much does that leave us with? I think the rover can carry 40. And right now we're weighing 7, 13. Oh, plus 15. That's already 28. Oh, so we can't take both bots, I think. Let's just take the recon bot. 28 plus 9, that's 37. And we take the recon bot, and we take the holographer. Or we take the net gun. We take the net gun or the holographer. No, I think we take the net gun. We need to have some kind of protection if things goes awry. And then we take one E-cage. And then we are basically cannot carry anything more in the rover. So we can capture one animal potentially, if we find it. And then we explore the first hex. We step out of the shuttle, or we drive out of the shuttle in our rover, which is now on the same hex as the shuttle, and we start to explore it. And let's see what we find in this lightly sort of brushy underground that we're moving through. Okay. All right. And I'm rolling 2 dice here, and then I'm looking at a matrix, which lead me to a paragraph, and then that paragraph may lead me to other paragraphs if certain conditions are fulfilled. So here we are, and what does it say? Yeah, we're just moving through this lightly vegetated area around the shuttle, and it seems that we've touched down in a very quiet place. There's just a gentle breeze blowing. There's nothing really to be seen, no major interesting life forms, just like a little bit of ordinary flora and fauna. So nothing particular to take note of. So we are going to travel. But where are we going to travel? Well, we can see that there are mountains beyond the river. So maybe it would be interesting to try to reach those mountains and see what we can find on the other side of the river. And yeah, we can basically just cross them if we want. Now, the rover, I guess, cannot enter into the mountains, or can it? Oh, it can enter into the mountain, actually. Well, that's good. That's good. So we're going to aim, I think, to go over here and explore a little bit. Now, we can either go space by space, or we can travel a little faster, which is, of course, we won't necessarily experience as much, but it may get us to where we want to get faster. So I think we should try to drive through the forest here and into and down by the riverbed. So that would basically be 2 spaces of movement, which is going to take 2 hours. No, it's not going to take 2 hours. It's going to take more, because we now have to see how many hours we expend as we are traveling. And as we are traveling into hilly terrain, in a rover is 1 hour, but there's also some heavy vegetation, so it's 3 hours, and then we're moving into mountainous terrains. It's 2 more hours, so that's 5 hours plus the terrain. So that's, again, it takes us actually 7 hours to drive all the way from here to there. And you can see if we have spent, when we have spent 22 hours on the surface of the planet, we need to have supplies, to spend supplies. And that is what can become a problem, but I think we're pretty much in the clear. We have a lot of supplies, and we're not that far away. It's a pretty friendly planet. My only worry here is that we may not be able to find any sort of interesting life forms, especially because I don't see any alien structures. So we stop here by the river, and we have to check and see if anything happens along the way. Again, we come down to the river. Everything is just quiet and beautiful, and Calvin is getting kind of bored, I think. Dr. Lanning is explaining all things about the beautiful fauna around them, and how special these trees are, and how they can only grow because the soil must have this and that combustion, and the special flowers of the colors is due to these chemical combinations in the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And Calvin is just kind of looking out the window, getting bored, wishing he was just back on the ship playing his games and watching his videos in his room, and kind of wondering what the whole deal is with his Uncle Hargrove that wants to have him down here to have like a nature experience. I mean, he could go camping where he came from before. I mean, there's no need to travel halfway across the universe for a camping trip. And then with a guy like this Dr. Lanning, whose mouth just won't stop blabbing about the beauty and intricacies of all these chemical compounds around them. Jesus, so boring. To imagine that Calvin, got chemically castrated just for this. That's a bummer, I think. That's a bummer. Anyway, nothing much happens here by the riverside, and 7 hours gone by. And I hope that you're all following along back home, and I will ask you to just, sit back, relax, put on some nice music, continue doing whatever you're doing, and just have this game drone on the background, because this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be traveling around, and as I said, nothing much may happen, and then all of a sudden, something suddenly may happen. But don't sit at the edge of your seats and wait for it. If it happens, you'll know. Now, having driven that, Calvin is like, can we just go back to the shuttle? There's nothing here. There's nothing here to see. Why are we even here? And Dr. Lanning says, now those mountains look very interesting. Let's see if we can drive the rover up the top of this mountain and get a better view of the area. And of course, Calvin doesn't have final say here, so he has to follow whatever ideas Dr. Lanning has about the landscape. So Dr. Lanning is going to drive up here and explore the area. So driving up there already it's a light meditation up there. So the mountain is 2 hours, and then it takes 5 hours to explore the mountain. So it's another 7 hours spent roaming around this mountain. And the worst thing about it is now Calvin can't even sleep because they have to stop the rover all the time and take little samples of soils and look at them. And Dr. Lanning, he's fawning over it. He's sending all these reports back to the shuttle about all the interesting things they're finding. And to Calvin, he's just like sifting dirt through sieves. Like, what's the point? So as they explore this mountainous area, let's see if they discover anything. Other than all the exciting soil samples, of course. And no, there is really nothing here, except all these little... I mean, it's really only interesting here for the geologist. It seems that sort of no major life forms has evolved here. Calvin, he kind of looks out for big footprints or something interesting to spark his imagination a little bit. Sometimes he imagines he sees a shadow moving in there, or he sees like a creeper coming down the branches of a tree, and thinking, oh, is that a giant snake slithering down there? What could that be? And what was that flying up there? But really, he's just inventing things. He's just trying to keep his mind busy. And Dr. Lanning is just as his head to the ground, picking up soil sample after soil sample. And Dr. Lanning now has this horrible idea, Calvin thinks, that they are going to survey the entire riverbed all the way back to the shuttle. So now they're going to travel all the way down the river. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to travel them 5 spaces back up to this other outcrop of mountain that they can see here. It's going to take a while. So traveling through here, for example, is already 4 hours, 6 hours, and 8 hours. No, 6 hours. What did I say? 2 hours plus that's 4 hours. 2 hours plus nothing is 6 hours. 4 hours, that's 10 hours. Those 4 hours, that's 14 hours. Plus another 4 hours. That's 18 hours. So for 18 hours, and I think the days are really short on this planet. So they have already been here for a day and a night and a day. And 18 hours takes this one up to what? It was at 14, so it goes to 8, and then it goes to 10. So that means that they will have to spend some supplies as they travel. So let's find out how to do the supply check. The supply check is another one of those kind of convoluted thing in this game that reveals it to be, as I said, this sort of logistics games. And a lot of the fascination, I think, in this game is the same fascination that you would have if you sort of immerse yourself in the crew of the Space Beagle. So these sort of more detailed calculation that you're making, and then suddenly your world can be turned upside down if some crazy life form just rips through the foliage before you, or comes down from the skies, or crawls up from the ground, or who knows. But we're gonna check supply, and we'll see how much supply that we need. So each of these characters needs 2 supplies, so that's already 6 supplies. And then all the bots that and the equipment that we're carrying is also 1 supply. So that's 6, the rover is 2, that's 8, that's 9, that's 10, that's 11. And then we're gonna roll a die. And 8 and 11, that's 2 times. So we're spending 2 supplies here, but we have like tons of supplies, so we're down to 13. And then we're gonna check to see the life support here is 1. So it basically means that there is a lot of there's a lot of food around us, basically. There are fruits on these trees. There is fresh water in the river. It's quite easy to find food around here. And let's just see what life supports are added. We're in mountains, so then it becomes 3. We're at a river, so then it becomes 2. And there's heavy vegetation, so then it becomes 0. So basically, we're just spending a little bit of supply. Most of the supplies we're basically gathering from the environment that we're traveling through. So no big deal. We could stay out here forever, says Dr. Langing, hopefully. And Calvin says, oh, Jesus, what is this fool that I'm traveling with? He just desperately wants to go home. But now Lanning stops the rover and says, let's go out and take a little look here. This is I want to see if the composition of the rock on this part of the planet is the same as it was over there. So they check, and let's see if they find anything. And all this time where I say they find nothing is me looking at paragraphs and checking if there is any condition in the paragraph that matches the environment that the expedition is in on the map. And if one of those conditions matches, then something happens. But as you can see, a lot of the time, the conditions don't match. So here, for example, if we were now in a space with an alien city hex, then we would have discovered something, but we're not. Here, if a mountain hex is being explored and the gravity is near weightless or light, we have light gravity and we're exploring a mountain. So as we step out of the rover and start poking around, Dr. Lanning is just staring down, picking up rocks and little insects he's finding. And Calvin, he's just going around with his arms behind his back, just chewing his gum and just kicking stuff around in front of him. And then something happens. Are you ready, guys? It is now. The voyage of the BSM Pandora happens. Right now. A 30-foot-long, winged, lizard-like creature swoops down on the expedition. We have to check if we are surprised. So as they're standing there on this rock, and Calvin is kicking around these things on the ground, and as he kicks one of them, he kind of smashes against a rock and breaks open, and this sort of fluidum, like yolk inside an egg, kind of streams out of this huge, weirdly polygonous, apparently egg-like thing that he just cracked open. And it isn't long before they hear a shrill shriek and a shadow descends over the top of the mountain where they're standing. And as they look up, they see this 30-foot-long flying lizard coming straight at them with its mouth open and its fangs hanging out, screaming, heading straight for Calvin. Laura Ray says, I think we are surprised. Yeah, that's a good point. We don't have the spec bot, so here on a 1d6, only on a on a 4. Let's see, on a 4 to 6, we're not surprised. Oops. So supply. So somehow, perhaps because of not Dr. Lanning or Calvin, but rather the recon bot, which is moving around, surveying the area, and actually is the only thing that has that overview. It notices the shadow and it sends out a alarm signal, which immediately is picked up by Dr. Lanning, and Dr. Lanning turns around and they see the creature come swooping down. And Calvin, he is the last one to turn around, and as he does, he shrieks in horror as he sees this gigantic thing coming down against them. So, let's see what happens. We are not surprised, so we can choose an encounter strategy. Let's see which strategies we can choose from here. We're getting into complex territory of the game. We can choose to try to... Sword Vendor says, check for surprise by the sudden appearance of a 30-foot winged lizard beast. Yeah, it's true. You know, it's a miracle we weren't surprised. Thank heaven for that recon bot. If it hadn't been for that recon bot, they'd be dead already. But luckily, and also I think it gave itself away because it came with the sun at its back, so we got the shade kind of early, and that may also have alerted the recon bot to this beast coming in. So it should have approached it from a different angle. Too bad, lizard beast. So we can either try to communicate, we can try to capture it, we can try to kill it, or we can try to flee. Now, I think fleeing from a 30-foot winged lizard beast is probably a bad idea, especially because we're on the top of a naked mountain. It's just going to take us out. Communicating, I don't see that we have a lot of time to communicate. This comes swooping down at us. And Calvin, he's certainly all for just blasting away at it, but we only got a little laser guns. I mean, we didn't bring the turbo laser, we didn't bring the ambot, we didn't really bring anything but the net guns. So I think as Calvin, he reaches for his stun gun, Dr. Lanning screams out to him to hold your fire, and then he pulls out the net gun and he just aims it as the wizard swoops down, just right at the precise moment he shoots off the net gun, trying to capture the lizard in this huge net that shoots out. So what we are gonna do now is that we're gonna find the lizard. And I think there should be a counter for it. Yes, there is. There it is. Can I show it to you? This is what it looks like. That's your lizard. Just imagine that thing, 30 foot long. Okay, so then we have to add the intelligence and aggression of the creature as we try to capture it. And that is, just need to, there are a lot of numbers here on these counters. I need to figure out what is what. Intelligence and aggression. Okay, so it's actually not super aggressive, and it's also pretty dim-witted. So we may actually have a good chance of capturing it here. I think the only reason that it reacted so spontaneously and aggressively was because Calvin just kicked open one of its eggs from its lair. So it's diving down at us, and we have to... It's with a -2 to capture. So this is the first time I'm doing this, guys, so bear with me. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna try roll. It's 2, so I have to go to 0.17. I think. So what happens? Determine the creature's aggression rating. Okay. And I have to write down the creature here stats of the creature. So this is called, what's it called? It's not, it doesn't say Dracula, it says something else. It's a Drada. Of course, it's Drada. I should have known that. It's a Drada. And we have to establish its aggression rating. So it has an aggression rating of 1. So I roll 2 dice. 9 plus 1 is 10. So it has an aggression rating of 8. And establishing these ratings, all these creatures have intelligence and combat and aggression and speed, I believe. And each time you determine one of these characteristics of the creatures, you gain information about them. So that is really what the game is about, to find out the characteristics of these creatures. And of course, also to try to bring them back home, which is why we're trying to capture this thing right now. So we check here. We arrived at an aggression level of 8. Because I rolled an 8, so oh, that's wrong. 6 is an aggression level of 7. Okay, I don't know if that's a lot or not. It seems to be a lot according to this. If the aggression rating is 6 or higher, conduct combat. Damn it. So it basically means that we do not catch the creature. We shoot out this net, and it's kind of for a moment, it sort of rolls around in the net in the air, and it looks as if it's going down, and then suddenly it takes its claws and break open a huge hole in the net, and it just keeps on with the net just hanging like draped, like a bridal veil from one of its wings as it continues directly towards Calvin to revenge this killing of one of its young. And we have to go into combat, and we're actually at a disadvantage. So how much intelligence does it has as 1? Okay, so we're going to combat, and we're going to be at a slight disadvantage because of its aggression. So let's see how strong we are here. Well, now we aren't exactly trained for combat, and we don't carry a lot of weapons, so this may be kind of hard. Let's see. So Dr. Lanning has 3, Calvin has 3, the Recon Bot has 4, that was 10. And then there's the possibility of using that net gun. So that will put us up to 12. So I think that's the best we can do. We can do 12. First, we have to establish the combat rating of the creature, which is... The combat rating of the creature... Is this how you do it? Yeah, the combat rating of the creature is 9, and we were at 12. So we are at a +3, but then we have to use a different table because, yeah, we are at a disadvantage. So now, after all these operations, determining all these factors, finally we're at the point where the creature reaches Dr. Lanning, Calvin, and the Recon Bot, and let's see what happens. So a fierce fight ensues. We are rolling around on the ground. It is tearing and clawing at us and our equipment, pushing the rover around. And Calvin, or Dr. Lanning, is desperately shooting his net gun, trying to get it entangled in the net and pull it away. And Calvin, he is repeatedly just shooting at it with his stun gun, and the Recon Bot is just lifting up rocks, sort of robot-like, and just dumping it down on the body of this gigantic lizard, which rolls around the net and bleeds profusely as it bites and tears left and right, and halfway pushes the rover over so it almost falls over a cliff. But finally, at the end, it lies still, dead on the ground. The lizard beast is dead. And we take 8 damage, which is, it destroys a lot of our supplies, I think, and it also gives us some desperate wounds. And actually, because of its size, normally each damage points destroy 2 supply points, but it's going to destroy 4 supply points for each damage point. So let's satisfy these 8 damage points as best we can. I think we certainly need to say that the recon bot will be damaged, and we are also going to say Calvin, that was 1 point. Then let's say Calvin, they have 5 endurance points. So they can take 5 hits. I think Calvin is going to take 3 hits. So he loses 3 of his endurance points, so he's grievously wounded. And Dr. Lanning also takes a hit. The ground survey officer also takes a hit. So that's 5. And then we lose 12 in expedition supply, which brings us down to 1 in expedition supplies. We only have 1 point of supply left. It's desperate measures because we are stranded quite far away from the shuttle on the top of this mountain. The lizard beast lies dead in front of us, and we have to get back to that rover. How are we going to do this? We have a few samples, picked up a bit of information about this strata. Dr. Lanning would, of course, love to know more about the Drada, but at the same time, Calvin is grievously hurt, and we're in contact with Captain Hargrove. Perhaps the contact has been cut when the rover was pushed over, and we cannot get in contact, but we just know we need to get Dr. Matheson back to the shuttle and back up to the Pandora quickly, or he may bleed out. This is a desperate situation, having just been attacked by a 30-foot-long flying lizard. Calvin, the nephew of Captain Hargrove, is grievously wounded, and we've lost contact with the shuttle. Now, we have almost no supplies left. The recon bot has been damaged and is ineffective, and Dr. Lanning has to step into character and try to bring the shuttle back safely, or bring the rover back safely to the shuttle. So there are various options here. I mean, we could risk it, or that is, Lanning could risk it and try to patch up Calvin out here in the open. The problem is that it's going to take quite some time. I mean, either he's going to do like a really quick patch-up job, and it may not be very effective, or we're going to spend more time, but that probably means that they're going to have to spend the night there, and there are lizards, and also they don't really have supplies. Like, they have 1 supply left. Like, it's like they just have a can of baked beans, and that's it. And that's not really good if you're trying to recover from wounds. So even though it may hurt Calvin more to take that drive back, I think that they have to just chance it. I can't really see any other way, and perhaps they can actually make it. Let's see how it would go. It would be 2, 4, 8, 12. Yeah, it's a 12-hour drive from where they are, which is exactly what they need. Oh, but there's also that. Let's look. So they can get there on their 1 supply, but they need to. We need to check and see how they make do with that 1 supply. So they're going to travel all the way down the river. They're not going to be doing any more surveying of any sort. They're just going to be heading straight back for the shuttle. And of course, back in the shuttle, Captain Hargrove is getting anxious. He's lost contact. His nephew is out there. He kind of feels like he wants to do something. He wants to go out look for them, but he don't know where to go looking. And if he leaves the shuttle, there is no one left in the shuttle except the spec bot, which cannot really do anything on its own. So you just have to wait there and just hope he knows that Dr. Lanning is a very, very bright person. And if anyone can get his nephew back, it will be Dr. Lanning. So they drive back to the shuttle, And we're just going to make a single supply check on the road, and fingers crossed they are going to make it. So let's see. For that supply check, they have 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. And we roll a die. Ooh! 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 This is bad. They have to spend 4 supply. My goodness. I didn't see this coming. Oh, wow. Yeah. So they have to spend 4 supply, and the place that they're resting is what? It is a flat area with light vegetation. So that's okay. So that's not going to be a problem. But as they move, they have to spend 4 supply. They only have 1. So they have to take 3 more losses. And the first has to be a character. So as they travel, Calvin's situation gets worse. And he's in and out of consciousness. And also, they discover that, I mean, the net gun that they've been using, it has actually also broke under the damage in one of his Dr. Lanning when he's sitting in the rower for these many hours. 12 hours they're driving, and he needs to take his mind off things, and he's just rummaging through the equipment, trying to make everything as optimal as he can, and he discovers that actually that tool had been damaged. And then, let's do that. Then also we need to take 1 more damage. So either Calvin dies on the way back to the shuttle, or Dr. Lanning's situation worsens, and his wounds get worse, and he starts developing a fever. Perhaps there's some kind of poisonous fluid from the lizard that has seeped into him, and I think. But I think, what is the story here? I think I have this feeling. Is it too much to have Calvin die out here on the first planet touchdown? And what would that do to Captain Hargrove? Or should he perhaps better almost die, but still make it back? I think that is the better story. And then we're going to try to patch him up aboard the Pandora when he gets back, just not to make it too sort of overly dramatic here on the first planet. So instead, we have now a grievously wounded Calvin, and also a quite seriously wounded Dr. Lanning. And just one morning, as the sun is rising and Dr. Hargrove is sitting scanning the horizon with his binoculars like he's been doing for the past 12 hours, he sees in the distance, in the shimmering distance, the rover driving slowly and unevenly over broken ground, getting closer, and the door opens, and Dr. Grosvenor steps out with the unconscious Calvin in his arms. And as he walks the last few steps between the rower and the shuttle, he falls down and kneels over, and Captain Hargrave comes out and picks up the boy and carries the boy into the shuttle, while Dr. Grosvenor just sits there catching his breath and looking up into the sky and just muttering to himself, "We made it, we made it, we made it." And they get back into the shuttle, and of course Grosvenor in the back of the rover also still managed to pack some peels of that lizard skin and take some blood samples from it, so they can still have something to look at back in the lab and learn more about this creature. So it's a successful mission, but this very peaceful planet should remind everybody of the dangers of traveling out here in space, where even, the brightest, lushest, most friendly planet can suddenly turn deadly, especially if you're Calvin and start kicking over random eggs of random 30-foot flying lizard beasts. So, lift off. The shuttle flies back to the Pandora. Perhaps I should actually use this one out here as well, so we can see where we are. And we have spent, I should mark that, 3 months. It took us 3 months to get to that planet. And now we are back in space, and as we fly to our next destination, we have time to do a little bit of patching up and healing and resting. But this shows how brutally dangerous things can get very, very quickly if you don't take care. So what I would like to do is I would like to try to repair our equipment, and I also like to try to patch up Calvin and Dr. Lanning as best we can. So let me just see how we can do that. We have the maintenance officer, that's Calvin. The unfortunate thing is that he is indisposed. So let's say that because he's indisposed, he'll not be able to fix the equipment, but he will be able to regain some of that endurance that he lost. And we can basically regain, it says up to 3. I think that's a little much. Let's say 2. So our ground officer is fully healed over the next couple of months, and Calvin is getting better. He's still wounded. There was some of that acidic blood, which is kind of just eaten away at some of his skin and his flesh and his right arm, and they had to put in some kind of prosthetic pieces in his arm. He is still walking with a limp, and he has some trouble speaking, and his eyesight is also a little bit off. It's difficult for him to focus. And they're right now researching, trying to find out more about this creature, which turns out to be a pretty aggressive and quite a fierce opponent. It's really a miracle that they had all survived. And of course, it's a shame that they weren't able to bring the dead specimen back, but that was just what the situation was out there. So now we're going to fly to a different planet and have a different expedition and a different adventure. And let's try to see where it is that we want to go. So this was a tiny planet in the Goldilocks zone. So, I mean, it was rich on life, but not really anything too sentient or it was just like a planet with just giant insects and giant reptiles, but no sign of sort of a real sentient being. And again, of course, we are hoping to be able to find some kind of alien structure or city or whatever. So let's set the controls for the heart of not the sun, but perhaps should we go up to would they be on a Paleo? That's a big planet which is very hot, or rather on a planet that's a little more distant and a little cooler. So I'm not sure. I am not sure. But okay, let's jump or up to Paleo. We're gonna fly up to basically a giant planet that is circling really close to the sun. And, Dr. Grosvenor, the scientist aboard, says like it's really not likely that this is not going to be a very hospitable place. It's not likely that we are going to be able to, I don't know what would be able to live on a planet such as this. So he's not too much for going there. But then Dr. Lanning, who has recovered fully and also recovered his senses, he is very interested in how the composition of the geological formations of the planet is. And he is also hoping that they can learn a lot about how lava functions down there on these planets, and how the whole basically creation process of these planets, how they come into being, can be learned in this planet, which looks to be a young planet circling very close to its sun. So we travel to Paleo, and again, Nikolai, the navigator, is tasked with bringing them safely there. And they arrive there without incident. It takes 3 months to get there, and Dr. Lanning is back up standing. Calvin, a little less so. He's not going on any expedition. He's staying back home. But I think he's learned a lesson in life. I mean, in one sense, he felt that his uncle just pushed him into this dangerous situation that almost killed him. But it was also a wake-up call, and he's found himself appreciating things that he maybe didn't appreciate so much earlier. And that is and that is something that he's taking from that experience. So he's doing a lot of introspection, a lot of reflecting up on that spaceship, and he's having long talks late into the night with his uncle, Captain Hargrove, and maybe, just maybe, a change is coming over Calvin. So now let's touch down on Paleo. As we start orbiting the planet, what do we find out? Well, we can see that it has an Earth-like gravity. Wow. So I think that's already a good sign. I'm surprised. I thought it might be different because the planet is so different. It's huge and it's hot. But it has an Earth-like gravity. It has a thin atmosphere again. That was what we had before, so breathing is a little troubled, but still. And hydrograph 0%. So this basically means that there's no water on this planet, I guess. It's just completely dried out. And it has an active geology. That makes sense. There's a lot of volcanic activity on this planet. We need to be kind of careful moving around there, I think. And it has a life support value of 4. 5 is the highest, and 5 means the least chance of life. So there's nothing in the books here that says that this planet can support life at all. But then again, what do we know about what supports life in the far reaches of space? We'll have to find out. So we are going to put together an expedition like we did last time. And this time the gravity is Earth-like. And that means that the shuttle can carry 80 points and the rover 30. Now, do we want to take the rover? I think we still want to take the rover because we need some protection from all that lava. It'll be too dangerous to go there on foot, I think. So we're going to take the rover, and then we're also going to take... We need at least 20 supply. Supply became a problem last time, but that was, of course, also because of that creature, which basically just destroyed a whole supply cabinet in the rover. We're going to need at least 20 supply. I'm going to put 20 to begin with. So that's 40 out of 80 that we've already taken. And now who's going down on the planet? Well, Dr. Lanning, the ground survey officer, he's so keen to go down there. So he's basically going to, he certainly will do that. Now, Captain Hargrove, he's not so sure. I think he has a bad feeling about this planet. I really do. I think, like, look, there's nothing down there. It's just volcanic. Put the scientists down there. Let's get it over with. So Dr. Grosvenor, science officer, you accompany Dr. Lanning down there. And we're going to keep the medical officer up here. We're going to keep the weapons officer up here. Why would we need them? We just need these two guys down there, I think. They are 13 in weight, so that's 53. And then take an ambot. I mean, we saw what happened last time. So take this weapons bot with you. This is this one, which weighs 9. So that is 9, 15, 22. So that is already 62. So there's 18 points more that can be carried. Definitely take a couple of E-cages. That's 24. Or that's now there's 16 left. The net gun is still damaged. And the recon bot is still damaged. So this time take the scanner. And we already took the ambot. Take the med kit, just for good measure. We saw how bad it went last time. The holographer is still probably a good thing to bring. Maybe a climb kit. I mean, I know it sounds insane, but Dr. Lanning, the ground survey officer, he really wants to climb on some of those volcanoes, so he's bringing a climb kit. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's 72, so there's 8 points left, so no more robots. Let's see if there's anything else they might need. On Captain Hargrove's advice, they are gonna bring a couple of stun bombs. It says just in case. And the scientists are both like, why are you arming us to the teeth? There's nothing down there. It's just going to be a geological survey mission. This is not a biological survey mission. This is a geological survey mission. We're going to go down there and we're going to check out all this volcanic activity. And, I mean, if there's going to be a flood of lava coming down over us, what are we going to do with a couple of stun guns? And Captain Hargrave is just, I have a bad feeling about this place. A bad feeling. And Nikolai, the navigator, also says that there's been some blips on the radar which did not seem to have anything to do with the volcanic activity, but like there was some other kind of perhaps tectonic shifts or perhaps something else shifting down there on the planet. So, we are ready to touch down. Let's go. And we are touching down in space. 0. I just need, what does it say? I mean, that's the real challenge with these Ares Magazine games and getting older, right? Really hard to read. 0816. Okay. Really? Isn't that 0616? No, it must be. Oh. Huh. I had just hoped for something else, I guess. Well, I mean, this spot, touching down on this spot, yeah, we could hope. We just spent 3 months traveling there, so we've been out for 6 months now, by the way. So we're circling the planet, and the only touchdown space is this space. So Dr. Lanning says, no, you need to get us down where there is activity. We need to find volcanic activity so we can do, as the rules allow, spend another month to keep orbiting the planet and see if we can find another space to touch down. So I'm going to roll the dice and hope that we can find somewhere more interesting, geologically speaking. I mean, there are underground cave systems here. So that is actually potentially super interesting. But they want to see if they can find somewhere where there's more activity. So they spent another month circling around the planet. And so they touched down in a different part of the planet. And the space they touched down is 1002. So we have touched down in this area. And the reason that I was pausing for a moment is that it looks like it's like a seabed they've touched down on. But it appears that it is actually not, because I was thinking, how does that work when we have a hydrograph level of 0%? But the game is clever. So it tells us instead that the shuttle has landed on a barren slope surrounded by mountains. An angled valley leads east through the peaks to a bleak plain. The caves in hexes 11, 0, 1, 2, and 3? Yeah, okay. I don't know. Maybe there is some kind of confusion here in the paragraph system. I mean, I haven't been looking at errata for this game, and I'm sure that little mistakes could have snuck in. But we're just going to play it by ear. It's all good. We've landed up here. Now, what we are seeing there is a barren plain. It is not liquid at all. And there are this valley, this crack here that we're in. It's an abyss. It's a gorge. So we're basically touching down at the bottom of this deep gorge that cuts through this barren landscape. And at the edge of it is this barren, bleak plain. But more interesting, what you're seeing here, these yellow geometrical figures, those are alien structures. And these three here are minor structures. This here is a major structure, could even be an alien city. So, unsuspecting, we have landed on this planet with a geological survey mission, which now seems to be encountering some kind of remnants, hopefully just remnants of an alien civilization, hopefully not an active alien civilization, because we did bring the Ambot, and we did bring a couple of stun bumps, but other than that, I mean, it's Dr. Grosvenor and Dr. Lanning. These are not the fighting types. They just want to take samples. So this is going to be dicey, I think. The climate is Saharan. So we are on a super hot desert planet at the bottom of a gorge. And the only good thing about this gorge is that it allows us some shade. So it's like the temperatures are slightly lower down here. And there's also this wind that's just continually blowing through this gorge. It's like a wind tunnel in the landscape. And as you can see, it's miles and miles and miles stretching across the landscape. But we also know the moment that we leave the gorge, that we go out the mouth of it, there are these alien structures. So I'm pretty excited to see how we're going to deal with this. And by the way, I should put an explored marker on this planet here. So traveling through gorges, how does that work? Saharan, Laurie say? Yeah, it's a desert-like planet. It's dusty, it's hot, there's no water, so maybe we're going to regret only bringing 20 supply, but they're scientists. It's Dr. Grosvenor and Dr. Lanning. They're not just going to give up on this. So let's get them into the rover. So what are we going to leave back? I think we need to put as much into the rover as we can. And the rover right now can carry, is it 30. So we could take, for example, I want to take more supplies. So just taking the 2 officers, that's already 13. If we take the bot as well, it's 22, and then they can only have 8 supplies and no equipment. So you know what? They're just going to ignore everything Captain Hargrove told them. And they are sure, like, there cannot be anything living here. This must be the remnants of an alien civilization. These must be ruins. They must have been abandoned. So, and we cannot fit all this gear into the rover. So just let's leave it behind. I mean, we could go on foot, but that's too slow. So instead, we are gonna jump into the rover 13. We're gonna take an E-cage just in case we find something. And we are also definitely gonna take a scanner so we won't be too surprised if something happens. It seems that we'll not be needing the climb kit, but yeah, let's take a med kit and a holographer. Or do we need a med kit? Let's just take the holographer. This is a friendly planet, I'm sure. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then we take 12 supply. That should be plenty. So we take 12 of our 20 supply, and we reset the expedition time to 0. And then we leave behind the ambot, the climb kit, the med kit, one of the E-cages. Oh, and the 2 stun bombs. Okay, let's take 1 stun bomb just to satisfy Captain Hargrove. That means we can take 1 less supply, but that's okay. Then we take 11 supply. And then they go out and they start searching through this gorge. Let's see what they find. It takes, by the way, to search through this area. So they spend 4 hours just searching the areas around the place where they touched down. 5, 6. Let's see if they find anything. So what are we? We're an alien city? No. Heavy vegetation? No. Mountain hex? No. So they don't find anything. They spent 4 hours driving around. There's no sign of nothing. There is no life here. They get a lot of interesting soil samples and some stones for the collection. And then they start moving ahead down to the mouth of this area. The mouth of the gorge. So they're driving slowly, zigzagging through the gorge. And I think they're gonna go out the mouth of the gorge, and then they're gonna go to this outpost, which is this alien structure there. First they're gonna drive there, and then next they're gonna explore it. So right now we're just gonna do a driving turn. And in this driving turn, they're gonna spend, let's see, it's flat, so it's 3. No, sorry, it's maybe 1, 2. It's pretty easy to drive here, actually, in the rover. It's just 2 hours to get there. It's pretty easy to go around. So they only spent 2 hours getting there. Let's see if anything happens as they come out of the mouth of the gorge. And of course, as they're driving through the gorge, as the gorge opens into this vast plain, suddenly this wall of heat just hits them. They've been driving in the shadows with the cool wind in their back. Suddenly, as they step out from the gorge, it's as if they're just in this big, open, boiling landscape. The heat, the sun is beating down, and it's as if the heat is also just radiating from the ground. So they're even thinking that maybe they should have brought their environment suits, but since the atmosphere is so breathable and they're so light in their steps, because the atmosphere is thin, but the gravity is Earth-like, right? So they're just standing there, and it's baking hot. There's no wind, there's nothing, and it's just empty. And they can see in the distance some shrubbery, but really low growth, like nothing that grows here grows like higher than your ankles. And then they turn right and they drive for the structure that they see in the distance. And first, let us see if anything happens on the way there. No, again, completely uneventful. Imagine a Western-like setting. The sun is going down over the mountains, dust is moving just across the ground. It's like tumbleweed, except it's little dust clouds, like little tiny small spiraling tornadoes that are forming on the ground as they move ahead. And in the distance, they see this structure. They're not quite sure what it is, and it's kind of shimmering in this heat that they're driving against. And then finally they come up close and they step out of the rover and they just stand there for a moment and they look up, and what do they see? How long is it going to take for them to explore this structure? Well, it's going to take 4 hours. So that's already 10 hours gone by. Still, it's pretty quick, 10 hours, going all that way and exploring a structure. So they're fine on supplies, I think. Let's see what they find. It is really just a dead, empty structure. It's like they move around it. It's giant, it's massive, and it seems to be made out of some kind of metal. And it appears solid, but still, using the scanner, they can see that there are cavities inside, but there are no obvious way in which to get inside it. There are no doors, no windows, whatever it is, they don't know. And all the measurement, their equipments go haywire when they try to measure it. It just stands there like some weird monolith that's dropped from space, but humongous, like a skyscraper that is lying down across the terrain. And they go all the way around it. And the interesting thing is that when you put your hand against it, it feels cool to the touch, but it also feels like almost as if it had a pulse. Or is that just the heat that gives that impression, that tactile impression of the heat? Is it their own pulse they can feel, or is it, no, it is really as if this structure somewhere within it had a beating heart that was pumping minerals around this huge metal wall. They stand there, and it feels like when you touch the hand of someone else, and even if you don't know them, there is a sense of connection, a sense of sharing, as if little tiny molecules are being exchanged between you and the hand of that other person. And it's that feeling as they touch that wall, like something is entering into them, and maybe they are also entering into that. Maybe that is how you enter the structure, but they can't stand here all day, and there are more things to do. And right next to the structure is something that looks like a sprawling complex of similar structures, only bigger, only more labyrinthine. But again, going here confirms their suspicion that, yeah, probably it was nothing. Probably this civilization has, whatever it was, has been abandoned. This was clearly made by sentient beings, but whoever was here are no longer there. And perhaps this is just what we're seeing is basically perhaps just the fundament of something else, a larger structure that was built over it or something. They're not sure, but it doesn't seem like there's any life around here. So they get back into the rover and they drive over to the alien city and start exploring. Now, the alien city is vast, and it's going to take it takes a lot of time to explore it. So it takes a couple of hours it takes just an hour to drive there, but then it's going to take them like 10 hours to explore this whole structure. So time moves, and they're kind of starting to get wary, but they still have they're still just ignoring their desire to sleep or eat or drink, and they're just so excited about what they're finding here. An ancient, abandoned civilization. And Laura Ray says, a sleeping alien temple waiting to be reactivated. I think that is spot on. I think that may exactly be what they're standing in front and not realizing. But let's see. They get out of the rover and they move around these structures, sometimes seeking shelter in the shade, and sometimes crossing vast open spaces where iron structures or bars basically stand out at crazy angles across the streets, if that's what you would call it. Let's see. 4 or 5. Something happens. Are you ready for it, guys? Again, for the second time tonight, something is happening. Okay. The expedition discovers a herd of mammalian creatures. One creature that has wandered off from the rest of the group is approached. Choose an encounter strategy. So, as I said, it did have this sort of Western vibe to it. So suddenly moving around these strange alien structures, these huge furry animals in this heat. Like, how does that even work? A whole herd of them that is grazing, but they cannot see anyone who leads them. They seem to be just wandering around on their own. And one of them gets a scent of Dr. Grosvenor and Dr. Lanning and start moving towards them slowly, while the rest of the herd pauses in the background and just stands there like a wall of mammoth, and this one mammoth moves up. And again, there is this feeling that these creatures shouldn't be here, and they don't necessarily feel connected to the city. And I think Dr. Grosvenor and Dr. Lanning still thinks it's an abandoned city, and this may be some species that has somehow arisen on the back of this civilization, or could it even be a species that has caused the downfall of this civilization? And as Swordvante says, this game is just non-stop action. You're damn right, it's non-stop action, and it's happening right now. So now we're going to choose an encounter strategy. We can either... I just dropped a die at this important moment. We can either try to communicate or combat. And we're definitely not going to combat. And why would we? So let's try to see if we can communicate with these beings. Let's try to use all our devices and try to emit sounds and see if we can get some kind of reaction to them. We're going to be really slow and friendly, no sudden movements, no high-pitched speaking, no nothing. We're just friendly going to try to communicate with them. And we do have Dr. Lanning with us, who is the brightest of his class in the ground survey officer's class that he passed with flying colors. So, let's see. If we're all wearing Envirix or Armorix, we're not. It seems that because we're not, this is kind of worrying, because since we're not wearing any kind of armor, an Enviro rig or an armor rig, we have to go to a different paragraph. I wonder what that might be. Okay, now, things are fucking happening here. Excuse my language. Let's see. Roll a die. Something happens to either Dr. Grosvenor or Dr. Lanning, and it is Dr. Lanning, the ground survey officer, the guy who just survived barely at the skin of his teeth on the last expedition, and who's back at it. What happens? He suddenly starts going into convulsions. Could it be that poisonous lizard blot from that other planet, but it's so many months ago? Or could it be because he was touching that structure for too long? I mean, he's not even in contact with this strange mammoth-like creature. And then after he goes into convulsions, the creature just turns and lumbers off. And Dr. Grosvenor, he gets down and tries to aid Dr. Lanning, who has been infected by a germ that is indigenous to this alien herd. So this germ has just basically, the moment they came into contact, the moment that Dr. Lanning opened his mouth trying to speak to this creature, this alien germ just jumped from this mammoth creature straight into his mouth and infected him, and immediately is into convulsions. So he immediately loses 2 endurance. So he's in bad shape again, just like he was on that last planet. God, it's tough to be Dr. Lanning. And each supply check during this expedition, he loses an additional endurance point. So that means that we kind of need to go back if we want him to survive. But I think Dr. Lanning is not. No, I'm still standing as long as I'm standing, and we're here. I mean, why turn back now? I would never forgive myself. This is what I've dreamed of all my life. Even if it cost me my life, I'm gonna survey these structures and find out more about these creatures. So basically, we are back in the city. The herd wanders off. They just came sort of lazy, curiously looked at our expedition, and by their mere presence and all this tiny, cripply, crawly little creatures that live in their furs, they've infected Dr. Lanning. Luckily, Dr. Grosvenor seems to have escaped the infection. But Dr. Lanning is convulsing, he's sick, and Dr. Grosvenor says, like, let's get back into the rover and let's drive back to the shuttle. But Dr. Lanning insists that they have to press on. There's still much of this city left to explore. And so they travel onwards. And again, it's going to take them another 11 hours. And that unfortunately means that they have to do a supply test, which means already that Dr. Lanning goes into further convulsions and they have to test supply. And right now the supply test is 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Die. Oh, that was lucky. So it's 1 supply point and 4. So calculating. 6, so it's another. Okay, so they have to spend 2 of their supply points, but I mean, they still got 9 left. It's not a bother at all. The main bother is that our friend, Dr. Lanning, is going into convulsions. But they're pressing on, and they're now exploring the second part of this abandoned alien city. A clear globe of a malleable substance is found embedded in a pillar. The pillar stands on a huge square, like a majestic square in the middle of the city. It looks like a place where you would have huge public gatherings. This massive pillar that rises above the ground, the greatest pillar that they have come across so far in this entire city. And inside it, they can kind of see through it. It's almost as if its walls are sinewy and alive, as if the stone itself, this semi-translucent stone itself, is a kind of flesh. And inside that, there is this clear globe of material which is moving around like a baby in a womb inside the pillar. It's gliding in a thick liquid that glows inside the sphere. Glowing, like just slowly pumping light in and out. And we can pass by it, fat chance, with convulsing Dr. Lanning around. He's not going to pass by anything that glows or looks like this. So we're going to investigate, and we're going to choose a character in the expedition and test against their intelligence. And I think Dr. Lanning, he really wants to investigate, and Dr. Grosvenor is like, no, I'll go check it out. You stay back. And Dr. Lanning is, no, you fool. I read about this somewhere. I can find it. And he pushes Dr. Grosvenor aside, and he stumbles over to the pillar, and he puts his hand up on that pillar, and he holds it there, and he tries to remember what it was that he has seen. And now we're going to test his intelligence rating, which is 9. And I roll 2 dice, and I roll a 6. So I roll less than his intelligence rating, which is probably good. So he manages, by scraping through he kind of scrapes at the outer surface of this pillar, and he finds out it's like layer. It's like a thin film, like it's like thousands and thousands of layers of thin film, almost like wallpaper, like translucent wallpaper, and he peels them off one by one until he arrives at this big glowing blob of an orb with something moving and pulsating inside it, and he takes it out of the pillar and he places it in the energy cage that they're carrying. And whatever this is, it is some kind of alien species, life form, some kind of biological matter gestating inside that globe. So, what is this? Is this an abandoned alien city that has left this mark to be found? Is this the meaning that at some point in the future, this perhaps last living structure in the city would again make the city come alive? Or is the city the species? Is the city the alien life form? Is it alive? Are they just not seeing that they're walking around a live creature? And what did they just take from it? Is this going to be dangerous? They transport the big globe into the rover and nothing happens except the convulsions are getting worse. Again, they know there's more to explore, but there's so little time, but they have to. They just have to. So Dr. Lanning, he insists that they keep on exploring the city. There's still more of it. It'll take them they have about more than 20 hours of exploring left to do if they want to explore every nook and corner, and Dr. Lanning wants. And Dr. Grosvenor, he's just given up on trying to convince him not to continue. And instead, he's just saying, okay, but then let's just do it as quick as possible. And no more you going ahead and start, pulling weird globes out of living pillars. It's like you just sit in that rover and I'll go and check it out. And only under those conditions will we continue, or I'll take you straight back to the shuttle. And Dr. Lanning agrees, and he sits there and he's speaking into his dictaphone, recording stuff because he knows he may not make it, but he wants this tape to survive. And they spend in this same location another 10 hours. And in those 10 hours, they again explore the alien city. And when you explore an alien city a second time, the stakes get a little higher. Let's see what happens. A clan of cautious, invisible, and intelligent beings are watching the expedition's every move with great interest. The bots and equipment in the expedition excite the aliens' sense of greed. Oh my God. This place is not abandoned. But the aliens who live there, you know what they are? They're invisible. And we just removed probably the most important, holy, magical, technological, whatever object from the pillar at the central square of the city. And now Lanning and Grosvenor are feeling the presence, and their equipment are going crazy again, just like it did when they touched that wall first, because what they were sensing were the invisible beings that are living inside these walls and that are just passing in and out as if the walls were just these permeable membranes that they could just travel back and forth through. These slowly drifting, invisible beings. And Laura Ray says, now something will happen, definitely. It does sound like it. And it seems that one thing that they're very interested in is all this technical equipment. And we do carry a scanner and also a holographer. So let's see if they're interested in any of that kind of stuff. So do we have a neuroscanner? We do not. Basically meaning, since we do not have the neuroscanner, we cannot precisely determine their presence and their exact location and their intentions. So blindly walking here. I mean, this reminds me of the story. Sorry, guys, this is an aside, but it just reminds me of the story of how the Mayan script was deciphered, the Mayan hieroglyphics were deciphered, and how, these expeditioners, these sort of rational men of science had gone to the ruins of the Mayans, the old temples and cities and structures that have been discovered in Southern America, and they had found this hieroglyphic script on the walls and that they couldn't decipher, and they had been sitting there at their desk trying to understand everything as best they could, and were completely unable to crack the code of what was written on the walls of these ancient structures. And then one day, some cheeky guy just decided, maybe just ask the villagers who live in the vicinity of these temples if they know anything. And yeah, sure they did. And by talking to them, they sort of very quickly learned to understand this language that was encoded in the script on the walls of these structures, telling that very same story that we're having right here of these people who are walking around in what they believe to be an abandoned, dead civilization, not knowing anything, while at the same time being completely surrounded by ethereal presences who are basically breathing them down their neck, who are causing them to convulse, who are observing them, who are following them around, and they haven't noticed a thing. They think they're all alone until now. After putting the characters in the expedition in amnesiac hypnosis, the pesky unseen hosts used trapdoors, trick walls, grappling beams, and other methods of stealth to relieve the expedition of their equipment. So basically, Dr. Lanning and Dr. Grosvenor, they just collapse in the street into a deadened sleep, and everything around them is lifted away. The rover, the E-cage, the scanner, the holographer, the stun bomb. All their equipment is taken, and all that's left is just these two human bodies, these two piles of flesh and blood and sinew and bone on the ground, and all the tech, everything they used to understand the world around them with, apart from their brains, is gone. And when they come to, several hours have passed. And Dr. Lanning's convulsions are getting worse. He wakes up by Dr. Grosvenor standing over him, putting a hand on his forehead, trying to calm him down while he's convulsing on the ground. And Dr. Grosvenor does not know what should be his main cause of concern here, that Dr. Lanning seems to be going into a trance or a coma, or that all their equipment is gone and they'll have to navigate their way back to the shuttle on foot. And Dr. Lanning, he just has glimpses of consciousness. And he talks about what he saw, and in his feverish dreams, he kind of leveled with these creatures, and it was as if he could see them as these structures moving through other structures, like some kind of floating bubbles of soap that penetrates a membrane and crawls into a structure and floats inside it. And he has this vision of them, and it is as if he can see their own equipment being transported inside huge globules like the one that they were carrying in their rover, but which is now gone, which is the most desperate thing that Dr. Lanning wakes up. The globular, the globular, the egg, the membranous egg, is it still here? And Dr. Grosvenor says, it's all gone. I don't know what happened. I don't know how long we've been out for, but the sun is coming down, and we need to get out of here. And Dr. Lanning, no, we need to stay. We need to find it. We need to understand this. We cannot leave without understanding it. And Dr. Grosvenor, his only hope, his only chance of getting back is that Dr. Lanning is now so feverish and so hallucinating that Dr. Grosvenor can almost manipulate him into just heading back through the city towards the shuttle that they came from. But Dr. Lanning is not giving up, and at every twist and turn, he is just trying to run into these huge facades of building, and he's just putting his hands on it, he's driving his hands down, and he feels as if he can almost like push his hands through the walls, and perhaps he can a little bit. Perhaps he does succeed every now and then, is just putting his fingers a little bit into those walls, and as he does that, he feels that pulse that goes through him, and he feels that he's connected to these invisible beings. So as they slowly make their way back through the alien city, Dr. Lanning keeps exploring, keeps attracting attention. Another 10 hours go by just trying to get out of the city. And Dr. Grosvenor is getting very, very worried for his friend and for his colleague, but also for long trek back to the shuttle. Because now that they're on foot, it's gonna be quite a walk. So let's see. Another 10 hours gone by. Okay. So, again, going back through the city where they were before, once more, they're gonna do a final, let's see if something final happens as they're leaving the city, with the more and more crazed Dr. Lanning, completely out of his mind, raving around, and Dr. Grosvenor have to pull him back from every single alley that they walk by. And it's a 5-6. So, following Dr. Lanning down yet another alleyway in the city, they enter into a large hallway. It's finally, they're somehow inside a structure, and Dr. Grosvenor is not quite sure how they got there, because everything seems to be walls, and now they're in here, he cannot see any way out. They're kind of trapped inside one of these giant structures, it seems. And in there, in the middle, in this vast emptiness of a room, there is a small, furry being sitting there, dressed in rags. And you can see how the colors are faded, how the cloth is torn, how it may once have been bright and shiny and look good on this shabby creature that is now sitting here like a beggar king in the ruins of his palace. So maybe, despite the life in the city, despite the invisible creatures moving in through the walls, perhaps this is the original population, the original ruler of this city, reduced to just a pauper inside the walls of his old palace. Everything he ever owned having been stolen by these greedy, invisible, tech fetishist aliens. And he just sits there in the middle of the room, so tiny in this giant room, as Dr. Lanning moves towards him with wide open eyes and foaming at his mouth and just convulsing with every step. But the furry creature doesn't react, and Dr. Grosvenor is kind of staying a little bit behind, trying to call out to Dr. Lanning to slow down, afraid of what might happen. And we will let the luck of the die decide what happens. It's a 5. The creature, the embittered survivor of a lost civilization, see, we were right, is convinced that the expedition is somehow to blame for the demise of its world. You were the ones who let the invisible aliens who stole away our wealth and our people, our technology, our entire civilization, and has set a suicidal trap. An unseen lever is pulled, and the walls and the ceilings of the hallway start collapsing inward. We roll 2 dice for each character in the expedition. If the dice is less than or equal to the character's speed, he or she escapes the falling structure. Okay. What is their speed? Oh, it's at the end. They have 6 in speed. So first, let's see. Dr. Grosvenor. The walls are collapsing around him, but he sees over there in the corner, there is this slight opening. That must be where they come in. If they can only just permeate that membrane, they can come out. And the wall is thinner there. And he screams for Dr. Lanning, follow me this way. And he runs. And he doesn't make it. He doesn't make it. A part of the ceiling comes collapsing down on him and crushes him underfoot. And Dr. Lanning just stands there and waits as the walls close in on him, closer and closer and closer, until there's just this tiny space left with him and the former disheveled king of the city. Will he make it out alive? He needs to roll 6 or less on 2 dice. No. As he stands there, he embraces the ragged king in his tatters and holding him together. He stands there and he feels that finally his great discovery has been made, the one discovery that will make him go down in history as a discoverer of alien civilizations, except no one will ever know about his discovery. And as they embrace, the walls and the ceilings and the entire structure, being alive as it is, crushes them and pulls them into the digestive system of the structures, tears them apart and tears out everything that's useful, all the molecules, all the metals and the minerals and the vitamins and the muscle and the sinew and the bone. They take it all out, everything that they can use, and they're integrated into the structure, becoming part of the city like so many others before them. And that king who was left there as the sole survivor, left there to witness every day everything he once loved and owned and held dear, having been transformed into a part of the structure that keeps him encaged in this alien city on a burning planet that he can never leave. And that Dr. Grosvenor and Dr. Hart and Dr. Lanning will never leave either. And the shuttle, it never returns back up to Pandora. Everything in this expedition is gone. And Dr. Hargrave, he had a bad feeling, you know? He did have a bad feeling. Swordvander says this is going to end badly, and Laura says, so he became part of the pulse of the structure. Absolutely. Dr. Lanning became part of the thing that he was investigating, and I guess that is his justification, that he became part of his own object of investigation. He became what he investigated. He now pulses in the walls of those alien structures, waiting for some other expedition, some other time to come out there and find them. Though chances that this will happen are slim, and it may be many, many aeons before it even does. And on the Pandora, having lost their shuttle on the ground, and having already been out for 7 months on their 10-month duty, they know that all they have to do is to turn back. And Captain Hargrove says to Nikolai that you have to get us back to the memorial station where we came from, and we don't have a lot to show for it. We just have bodies. We just have... The only good thing that's come out of this mission really is that Calvin, who is now fully healed, he has awoken to a new sense of destiny in his life. And he was down there on the first planet with Dr. Lanning, and he hated everything he said about the trees and the fauna and the butterflies, and he was sick of listening to him. But now he's also understanding that why Dr. Lanning was interested in these things, why it's important to learn about the world around us, why that may be the only thing we can do to witness this universe that we are part of. So this journey, which was really about getting out there and discovering alien life forms, has turned into a journey of discovery for Calvin, the nephew of the Captain Hargrove, who's discovered a different, a new, a stronger purpose in himself. And he will next time be manning a mission, not on the Pandora, probably on some other survey ship, but he will not be the maintenance officer. He will now be in the role of Dr. Lanning, going out there and making all these samples and surveys. And he, as Dr. Lanning, is probably going to be one who will be willing to go down with his research like Dr. Lanning did, becoming part of the very object that he investigated. The only caveat in this story, the only thing left to do, is to try to get the ship back safely. Because we have to travel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 6-month journey home. That means that we'll have been out for 13 months. And Nikolai, the navigator, is going to try to steer the ship, but it's a long journey. And on that journey, something happens. Let's see if the Pandora makes it back. One final event, an interstellar event as they travel. As the Pandora comes out of faster than light speed, it encounters an asteroid storm. We have to see how good Nikolai is at navigating this. He has an intelligence of 8. Storm is 9, so it's 1. And basically, they're going through the storm, and the ship takes a couple of hits, and it's thrown a little bit out of course, and the whole tour is basically, because they have to make a major detour and travel out of this meteor field and approach the landing station from a different direction, it takes them another month to get back. But finally, they make it back. The ship is battered. Dr. Grosvenor and Dr. Lanning, the 2 foremost scientific officers aboard the ship, have died. They have nothing to show for it except a few blood samples and some peels of skin and a few bones from this flying lizard that they discover. And then, of course, most important of all, the newly mindset of Calvin, the reformed Calvin, who came into the ship as a slacker who didn't want to go, and who now, through his near-death experience and the experience of the loss of the person who saved him when he himself was dying, has returned with a desire to go and explore more parts of the universe and himself discover alien life forms. And this is where we leave our crew as the Pandora once again docks at the Watkins Memorial. Its voyage is completed. And now, if we were playing the Voyage of the BSM Pandora is written is when we would calculate victory points. I imagine that we didn't get a whole lot of victory points on this tour, but also we don't count victory points on the Hopeless Stream, so we don't care. This is a story that you got, the story of a reluctant maintenance officer, a young kid who traveled into space and experienced life in a way that he hadn't experienced before, who was transformed and who found his destiny, even if the life forms that the Pandora found out there was not life forms that were ever really documented or brought back. And no one knows what happened down at Paleo. Most likely, they just lost contact, and the mothership just lost contact, and Dr. Hargrove has to assume that the foolishness of Dr. Lanning and Dr. Grosvenor in settling down on this volcanically active planet was just foolhardy scientific ambition that led them right into a death trap, and that they were probably covered in a flood of lava somewhere in that gorge where they sat down. That's really all that you can surmise. The idea that there should be any kind of alien life down there, no, not that. That planet is crossed off. There's no need to go there again, that's for sure. There's nothing to be seen there. Except we know better. We know that there is. So here ends the tale of the BSM Pandora. Thank you so much for hanging out and following along on our expeditions. I hope I gave you like a little taste of how this game works. This interesting dichotomy between the planning section of the game, this logistic planning, and then this sort of more tactical and more sort of raw feeling of being on the planet and being exposed to these sort of wild episodes that, as you can see, can be drastically different. I mean, this was somewhere between a science fiction movie and an ayahuasca trip. It was a beautiful psychedelic exploration. It's in that, there is this thing called cyberdelics, which is basically, technologically assisted psychedelic experiences. And I feel that this was somewhere right where those two strains, they meet and create this cyberdelic nexus. So a game that I think beautifully weaves between the strategic and the tactic, between the planning and the logistics part and the experiential part, a little bit reminiscent in those beats, I think, of the Vesuvius expedition, the Vesuvius encounter, Last Frontier, the Vesuvius encounter, I think it's called, that I streamed earlier in the year, which also had these very malleable turns where either you're on this sort of strategic turn where you just like freely move your pieces around the spaceship, and then as soon as something happens, you go into bullet time mode and everything happens like one bullet at a time. This is, of course, much more zoomed out and abstracted, but I feel that it still has that same sensibility of you're moving around in a world and nothing much happens, and you're kind of planning so these sort of broad strokes. And then when something happens, you find out, like I did here in this last segment of the game, that I was completely unprepared to deal with all this madness in this city. I mean, I was basically good at surveying volcanic activity on this island or on this planet, but dealing with all these strange aliens and crazy Dr. Grosvenor, who was convulsing and he stole basically this gestating alien artifact from the pillar. He just spelled doom for everything, and I think it's a stroke of luck for the rest of mankind that he didn't make it back to the ship, because what wouldn't have made it back to that ship with him? I mean, you have the beginning of an alien movie right there if he'd made it back to the ship with that huge globular thing with some glowing, pulsating, weird biological substance inside it. Swordman, this is great and obscure game. I totally agree. This is absolutely a great and obscure game. I think both those statements are very correct. It is a game that, again, I mean, you can just see the seeds of so many other games here. There's like the excitement of exploring. And remember, really keep this in mind. This is the first game that uses the paragraph system like this. This is the first game that allows you to explore this hex and go through a book and make choices and end up being crushed by a living structure together with the last dying king sitting alone in this big bare room. And I mean, it does that through the paragraph system, and this is how it starts. Of course, piggybacking on everything that went before, like I was speaking about at the beginning of the stream, like going all the way back to Dice Divination Manual 2,000 years ago, which were the first to introduce some kind of paragraph-based system. All that building up to this moment in 1981, where John Butterfield releases this game and just shows us how you can combine this methodology with a hex encounter movement game, basically, and create an exploration game that is, as you can tell, like, yeah, you can count victory points, but who cares? This is really not about that at all. It's about having adventures, about the excitement of doing these tours, and there are, I mean, we scratch the surface of what can happen in this game, if at all. So there's so many things that can still be explored. There's so many planets and experience to be had in this game. And the best thing is, it's coming out again. It's being republished next year, called the Away Team, the Voyage of the Pandora, or the Voyages of the Pandora, I believe. And it's John Butterfield, probably with the whole GMT team at his back. So it's going to come out again. This here is a magazine game. Also, just keep that in mind. A magazine game of this magnitude, it's insane. The Ares magazine games are insane. Said it a million times before, say it a million times again. Do not overlook these games. You do so at your own peril. But it's coming out now in a GMT production, and if you've ever held a GMT game in your hand, you will know that GMT is about the finest production in board games that we find anywhere. These very, very high standard games, very high standard components, excellently written rule books, and I don't think the rule book is too bad for this game. There's just a lot of sort of nitty-gritty logistical stuff that is hard to remember, so you have to look up tables and you have to look up like how exactly do you make a supply check, and what if they're in a thin atmosphere, and what if they're in a corrosive atmosphere, and what does it mean if the armor rig is damaged. So there are a lot of these little exceptions you have to take into account, but overall the game is pretty easy once you got that down, and I'm sure that in the new GMT version it's going to be even easier because they're probably going to add more content and new content, but they're also very good at delivering complexity in an approachable format, I would say. So I'm stoked for Away Team, and when it gets here, I'm definitely going to be revisiting the Voyage of the BSM Pandora in its new incarnation in 2026. If it comes out in 2026, fingers crossed. It's been postponed a bit, I think, but it should be coming out. So yeah, I think that's it. I think the only thing left to say is, of course, that the Voyage of the BSM Pandora came out in 1981, but the year before, May 1980, this game came out in Ares magazine. The Wreck of the BSM Pandora. And this is a kind of, it's a prequel in the sense that it came out before the Voyage of the BSM Pandora, but it's a sequel in the sense that this is a game about what happens aboard the Pandora after they have obtained all these alien life forms and they're on their way back to the Watkins Memorial Station. And for some mysterious reason, suddenly they all come out of hypersleep and they wake up, and the creatures are being released into the Pandora, and all these alien life forms are running around the ship, and you're playing all the characters aboard the Pandora trying to contain these creatures again. So this is a A very different game, but it takes place aboard that space station, and it was, I also believe, one of the big inspirations for the Vesuvius incident that I mentioned just before. Let me just show you the map, because then you can actually also see what the BSM Pandora looks like inside. And this is the map. See it? So again, beautiful colors as always in the Ares Magazine games. And what you have here on the left, over here, that is the ship that you can kind of see it. It's 3 floors of the same ship with the tail out here, or perhaps it's the head out here. It's a pod. And then you're running around these rooms and you're trying to basically get all these alien life forms back into their cages and safely land this ship before it blows up or crashes or whatever. So that is the wreck of the BSM Pandora, which came out 9 months before the voyage of the BSM Pandora. So again, we are not going to run out of material to stream on the Hopeless stream. It just keeps on coming. And I've done 4 Ares Magazine games now, and there's certainly a few more that I'm gonna do. The wreck of the BSM Pandora for sure, and also the Damocles mission that I showed you earlier, and I'm sure there are others as well. And as Swordvander says, it is forbidden to not play these games. And I fully agree. Do play Ares Magazine games wherever you can find them, or wait for their re-releases, as in the case of the Voyage of the BSM Pandora. The Voyage of the BSM Pandora is actually being reissued in an upgraded 2nd edition, and it is coming out next year. And it is designed by no other than John Butterfield himself. So here, 44 years later, he has taken it upon himself to republish the Voyage of the BSM Pandora in a new and expanded version at GMT Games. And yeah, as you can say, I checked the status on GMT Games website last night, and it is in art and final development. So yeah, it should be out sometime next year. So if you like the game that we'll be playing shortly, then you may want to grab a copy of Away Team from GMT Games, because that will give you the new and updated version. And I guess it may even be cheaper to grab the Away Team than to grab one of these old magazine versions of Voyage of the BSM Pandora, because being the Grail game that it is, it can be rather expensive to pick up. And with those words, I'm gonna bid you all a good night. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, stay safe and stay happy, and keep flowing down that hopeless stream right into the farthest reaches of space. And do let us know if you happen to find a species that is more deserving than our own. Good night.